Fuck. What a horrible nightmare. Wait. Where the fuck am I? This isn't my mom's fucking basement. Why the fuck am I in my shit cosplay? Fuck, man. Last thing I remember is just writing a fucking terrible script of one of my favorite horror movies. Now I end up in the fucking woods? This is fucking terrible.
Frankie, we've come for you!
Well, who the hell are you? Like, where the fuck am I? And am I fucking dreaming or some shit? Like, this shouldn't be possible.
Nah, you're good, bro. It's all a dream. You're actually doing really fine.
Psych! You're in the real life, Frankie!
Listen here, pal. If the next two words coming out of your mouth are my soul, you better get to stepping right now.
We are the things that were and shall be again. We come for what is yours, Frankie. We come for your soul.
Listen, pal. You ain't taking but two things right now. And that's Jack and shit. And Jack left town.
Then I'll swallow your soul!
Swallow this. Now, let me tell you something. The 80s were a hell of a drug, and Hollywood was a whole other story during that era. With the success of the cult classic that could, fans wanted more from Sam Raimi, especially the studios. Evil Dead was possibly one of the best original horror movies to ever debut in the 80s landscape, where slashers, aliens, and zombies ruled the genre. With the 80s being a gore fest, people wanted more. Popularity grew amongst debuted movies like A Nightmare on Elm Street, Halloween, and Friday the 13th. Those films would not only get sequels, but especially reboots later down the road. But where does this leave Evil Dead in all of this? Well, we got a reboot, sort of a sequel. I'm not talking about the 2013 film, I'm talking about Evil Dead 2, Dead by Dawn. It's technically a resequel, and I know that that's not a word, but the way that this film came out, it feels like a sequel and a reboot in the exact same time. Since you see, it isn't exactly a direct sequel to the original film, nor is it a full-on reboot or remake, since it takes elements from the first film, just with a different spin. We still have the hunk of a man who could probably steal my mom, that being Bruce Campbell. We're reintroduced to Ash and his girlfriend Linda, who this time around is played by a different actress, that being Denise Bixler, instead of Betsy Baker. Now before you say anything bad or get confused as to why, this is the scoop that I was able to get for most of you primitive screwheads out there. An article or site known as Starburst interviewed Betsy Baker and asked, "Were you disappointed that you weren't in Evil Dead 2? To which she replied back with, "I wasn't disappointed. In fact, I was asked to portray Linda in Evil Dead 2. I met with them again, and we had a long discussion. The invite was out there, but I had gotten married, and my husband and I were expecting our first child, and we all agreed there was no easy way around it. So regrettably, I had to turn it down. But we had a beautiful, beautiful daughter 2 months later. Now who can call that a disappointment?" And that was the scoop as to why Betsy Baker wasn't in Evil Dead 2. Now, let's get right back into this video. Ash and Linda set their sights towards the original cabin from the first film. Now, some fans used to theorize that Ash didn't have any recollection of the cabin once he was there with Linda, but in the logic of this film, he never went there until now. You see, the previous film is just more of a standalone film with its own story, whereas here, it's redoing what the first movie did, continuing it, but with a more detailed story, fleshing out of the characters, yada yada yada. We're reintroduced to the Necronomicon Ex Mortis, and the tape, just like in the original movie. The scenes play out almost shot for shot, but the horror strikes more fast and gets right in our faces. Linda gets attacked by the evil, gets possessed, and turned into a deadite, and leads to our Chad hero, Ash, fighting his girlfriend to try and survive. He manages to hold his own and decapitate her easily like she's a jobber in wrestling. At one point, our hero even tries to flee from the area, but much like its predecessor, there's nowhere to run. The evil chases him down in the exact same manner as the ending of the first movie. He's carried around by this evil force and thrown down in a puddle of dirty water. The scene is shot well, and what makes it special is the next event that happens. By God! That's gotta be... Wait, wrong. That's the wrong line. Ash gets possessed and turned into a deadite for a bit, until somehow, in some way, he reverts back to his human self. He later on returns to the cabin after the encounter he had, but someone else comes back as well. In a scene that's shot and edited well for its time, as well as holding up, in my opinion, for today's standards, Linda rises from her grave as if she were the Undertaker punching through his fiery casket.
Oh my God! The dead has risen!
In a shot that's beautifully crafted, perfectly placed, and worked well for its time, it's meant to be a haunting scene, and it really does its job. At least for Ash, since most people find this funny. Ash gets bitten by Linda, and has to resort to killing her as there's nothing else he can really do. The fights are pretty one-sided at first due to Ash being in shock with everything that's going on. Deadite Linda is toying with him, as well as torturing him to break his spirit.
You swore that we'd always be together. I love you.
Ash manages to yet again withstand Deadite Linda after being tortured psychologically and beaten to a pulp. Ash wins, but it's here where our fabled hero loses his hand since it starts to become possessed. Bruce Campbell did a hilarious job with the comedy in the scenes, making it feel both real and funny just by the way he was doing the slapstick humor. The possessed hand gets closer and closer to a knife after the hand managed to beat up Ash and knock him unconscious. But, thankfully, Ash stops it and cuts his hand off in the famous scene. The house, much like in the previous film, plays a much more bigger part in this movie. Not only is this house possessed and play tricks on Ash, but it torments him as well. William starts to lose his cool, and it's here where we are introduced to a new cast of bodies. The movie shows them a bit earlier, just forgot to mention. As for bodies, you can kind of guess what it means. The new cast being Annie, Jake, Bobby Joe, and Ed meet Ash for the first time and throw him into the cellar since he shot at them in fear, since he didn't know that they were out there. He thought the house was still messing with him. But he gets thrown into the cellar, and one of the other reasons being is that Annie's parents were staying there, and if you remember the tape recorder, that technically belonged to her dad, and it's here where we find out that Annie's parents were staying at the cabin, but she believes that they're probably dead because 1, Ash is missing his hand, 2, he has a chainsaw, 3, he shot at them, and 4, they're nowhere to be found, so he looks like a crazy psycho at this point. So, for their safety, they toss him down there like a rag doll. But he isn't safe because someone decides to make an unexpected jump scare. One that just... It didn't scare me as much looking back at it now, but it made me laugh a little bit. But it's here where we meet Henrietta, or at least Deadite Henrietta, and she's played by Ted Raimi, and the way... I just love Ted Raimi in this scene. The way that he's dressed up as Deadite Henrietta just works so well. And the chemistry he has with Bruce just shows it there, since Bruce has to look very terrified, and once he starts pleading and begging for them to let them up, and they see that Henrietta is down there, they let him up. But much like in the original movie, the Deadites start to toy with their future victims. Henrietta, realizing that her daughter is there, starts to torment Annie as she reverts back to her human form, singing a lullaby that she sang to Annie when she was much younger, that being Mockingbird.
Hush, little baby, don't say a word. Gonna buy you a mockingbird.
Annie at first believes that that's her mother, until she starts to realize that this is all a trick. And that's when Henrietta shows her true self yet again. She never gave into it, but the evil makes its intentions known here.
Join us.
What does the evil want? The evil wants to kill everything good. They are the things that keep us up at night. Once they have the Necronomicon in their possession, it's all over for humanity. This is revealed once we come face to face with both Henrietta and the now possessed partner of Annie, that being Ed. And they will stop at nothing to get their hands on the book.
We are the things that were and shall be again. Snatch of the book. We want what is yours. Life. Dead by dawn.
It's in this movie where, much like Jason gets his iconic hockey mask, Ash gets both the chainsaw and boomstick in one. This is much later on in the film, like later. Well, we see the chainsaw, but we don't see him make the chainsaw hand until like later. You know my gist.
Well, hello, Mr. Fancy Pants.
What's cool about this film is that Ash isn't as scared compared to the first iteration of him. Although he loses everything again, he manages to put up and shut up and go toe-to-toe with the Evil Dead. The film makes him out to be the group's leader, and he does a decent job at keeping mostly everyone alive, but like in every horror movie ever, characters start to get picked off one by one, and some of these deaths are great kills as well. Bobby Joe is killed off screen by the trees, and thankfully, it's not a tree rape scene, so I'm happy about that. But with her death, her boyfriend starts to go crazy. Jake takes Ash's gun and orders them to go outside with him to look for Bobby Joe. Ash calmly tries to defuse the situation, but it doesn't help. By now, Bobby Joe could be dead since Ash points that out as the evil did take her, and there's not really anything they can do. But this isn't the answer that Jake wants. And Jake decides to hurt Ash, and Annie is now pissed because she takes his side and realizes that there's not anything that they can fucking do. The survivors head outside the cabin into the woods, and like every idiot in any horror movie ever, Jake yells out for Bobby Joe.
Where are you, girl?
Instead of Bobby Joe answering, we get something much more sinister. Evil Ash is back. Evil Ash attacks Jake and manages to tire him out and tries to attack Annie, but is unsuccessful in the process. Annie does her best to bring back Jake inside the cabin, since now he's just tired and I think rendered unconscious or wounded from what I remember. I don't remember exactly, but once he's in there, she tries to bring him in, hoping that Ash doesn't get inside, but she doesn't realize how dangerously close the cellar is to Jake, and Henrietta manages to manages to jump scare Jake and bring him down into the cellar and starts to, I think, eat him, thanks to the blood scene, where he's left into nothing but skeleton and bones. This is a very bloody scene for the entire movie. It's the most blood I've seen. It's the most blood we get to see aside from the blood gushing out of the house right onto Ash's face. Evil Ash then manages to get inside and attack Annie, but his human self starts to fight back in a sense. He fights with himself and the evil starts to leave his body. In the midst of the chaos, however, he believes he killed Annie as he wails loudly, but thankfully for him, he didn't. Now it's just Ash and Annie left to fight the evil dead. After the iconic chainsaw hand scene, we're left with our two heroes duking it out with the evil dead. Henrietta is a tough bitch though and doesn't go down without a weird cartoon style fight that makes the scene hilariously good, thanks to both the sound effects and the practical effects used to make this scene feel special. Ash manages to kill Henrietta, and Annie tries her best to send the Deadites back to hell.
Swallow this.
Until the failed Thing hand stabs Annie from behind like Seth Rollins destroying the shield from the inside. Since Annie couldn't finish reciting the pages, the evil has one last trick up its sleeve. We see a demonic tree fighting with Ash in a scene almost reminiscent of Treebeard beating Merry and Pippin, but instead of it being good, it goes terribly wrong and Treebeard would eat both of these hobbits. Annie, from out of nowhere, manages to finish reciting the pages, and the evil is sent back to hell. Or so we thought. Instead of the movie just ending there, however, it continues. The cabin starts to break apart as a sudden gust of wind enters. An interdimensional gateway opens right outside the cabin and tries to suck Ash into it. Clinging onto a piece of wood like Austin holding onto the cage door, Ash isn't even able to stay and is sucked into the gateway. The effects now look kinda goofy, but it shouldn't draw you out of the film. It's here where Ash is now transported to the Middle Ages and encounters knights. These knights at first believe him to be evil until suddenly a flying man bat- wait, that's just the Deadite, damn it. Fucking hell. A flying Deadite appears and soars over these knights, close to taking our S-Smart employee head on until good old Boomstick shoots him right in the face. Get fucked. Ashley J. Williams is surrounded by the knights again. This time, however, instead of thinking he's evil, they start praising him for saving them, as now he realizes that they believe he is the hero from the pages of a foretold prophecy, since they're chanting, "Hail the Chosen One, hail this, hail that." And the movie ends with the great cliffhanger ending to set up the evil... Oh yeah, it's not Evil Dead 3, it's Army of Darkness. Now let's get to the... Nah, shit, that's not part of my video. That's not me. That's that one guy. The one guy I like. Well, let's discuss the characters of this film, at least, since I pretty much summarized most of this film, and I want to get into detail about the characters so that you guys get to know about them. I kind of wish I did this earlier, but yeah, here we go.
There's something down there! It's a trick, I know it!
Although I just did a rundown on the film story, I need to give a brief description of the characters featured in this movie, as well as I want to do them justice, and I don't want to just say, I don't want to say this, and this without giving any explanation whatsoever. Evil Dead 2 has around the same amount of people, if not more of a cast than the original movie. Some characters here are a bit more fleshed out, while others aren't. Ash, being the focal point of the franchise, is built upon heavily and has the best journey throughout all of the films, especially in Evil Dead 2. The film shows his strengths and weaknesses, but shows a difference between both puny coward Ash from the first movie and this groovy maestro in this Resequel. This is the iconic Ash that the franchise would take and make as the face of the entire film, and this would be where the legacy started. As for new characters, we got Annie, Jake, Ed, and Bobby Joe thrown into the lion's den. Annie is shown almost as if she'd be the final girl in the movie, as she not only manages to not get possessed, but lasts for a majority of the movie's runtime. She's not dumb nor cookie cutter and helps Ash against the evil's hordes. Sarah, you ready? The actress Sarah, I can't pronounce the name. Sarah Berry does a great job at making her character feel special and has a good performance throughout the film. Ed Geatley, played by Richard Damier, plays both the boyfriend of Annie in this Resequel, as well as Annie's father's assistant. Ed has a small amount of screen time, but his presence is more so important when he's turned into a creepy fucking deadite. The makeup used to bring Ed's deadite to life is beautifully done and well crafted. The makeup for the deadites, especially in this film, are more stunning and a definite major upgrade from Evil Dead 1. Ed's more of a body bag in this film, but he's not that bad of a character. He's decent. Bobby Joe and Jake sort of play the dumb couple trope for Evil Dead 2 Dead by Dawn. They appear in the movie around the woods near the cabin where Annie and Ed appear to be at. Needing help to carry luggage, Jake agrees to help Annie and Ed since they offer to pay some cash, and Bobby Joe ends up tagging along. Jake thinks that it'll be light work until the luggage ends up being heavy as hell. But enough of that. Time to finish explaining those two characters. Bobby Joe is the first person to die in the movie, but not turn into a deadite technically, as we never see her again, so she could be dead or alive, but she's definitely dead. I'm pretty sure they were not going to bring her back. She hasn't been back for any of the sequels, nor has she been back in the Evil Dead TV series. And I highly doubt they're going to bring her back in Evil Dead Rise, because I don't want to sound like a dick, but she wasn't that much of an important character. That's it. Jake, on the other hand, is presented to us as sort of this dumb hick, but caring, as he does love his girlfriend, but in the end, bites the dust in a horrible way to the likes of Henrietta. And I just want to say thank you for your performance as Jake. Rest in peace. There is a huge difference in cast in Evil Dead 2 compared to the original movie. While the first film did focus more on its characters and settings, since nearly every character got more backgrounds and more details, whereas this cast didn't. Evil Dead 2 centered around more on important characters that the franchise would use. Whereas we had beautiful, depressing moments between the likes of Ash and Scotty or Ash and Linda in the first movie, Evil Dead 2 tried its best at building the main protagonist as this broken, yet dumb, goofy hero that we saw in this movie. After losing Linda again in a much more terrible fate, Ash manages to prevail throughout all the hardships he faced here without a doubt. We're told more about the Deadites, the origin of the Necronomicon and what it can do, as well as having terrifying costumes and a soundtrack just as stellar as the previous installment in the franchise. But what I loved about this Resequel is that though this film is mixed for many in the fandom, Evil Dead 2, in my opinion, and I say this respectfully, handles Ash the best. But it's not superior to the first film. Before you say you'll swallow my soul or some shit, hear me out. Although this movie in many ways is a big improvement and a big step up from the last installment, Evil Dead had a lot of things going for that movie compared to Dead by Dawn. Evil Dead was the movie that could, the cult classic that wasn't supposed to make it big, yet it did. It may not have had the best or biggest budget, but it tried. Everyone involved in the project showed that they had heart and made a beautiful horror film centered around characters and using elements as well as creating tropes for horror movies to come. What Evil Dead 2 was missing was the horror. They had the tone, the setting, the atmosphere, but they went more in the direction of action. And that's what makes this film different. But not in a bad way. It makes it rather unique and it still works. Evil Dead 2 has possibly my favorite iteration of Ash, like I mentioned, the best makeup and special effects hands down, and my favorite villains as well. The Resequel is definitely a horror movie you need to watch, as well as the franchise, because after this video, sometime later on, I'll definitely be doing Army of Darkness, or the untitled Evil Dead 3. And before we end this video, here are some fun facts that I managed to scoop up about this movie.
Down there.
Just a little film joke.
Most of the original props from the first film reappear in the sequel, such as the Necronomicon and the Amulet. Evil Dead 2 suffered nearly the same fate as the first movie, as upon releasing or before, they were nearly slapped with an X rating had Sam Raimi and the crew not found or come up with a false production company, that being Rosecut in the beginning title card. Bruce Campbell co-produced this movie, and it shows. Greg Nicotero returned to the Evil Dead franchise and helped with the special effects and the makeup, and you can tell how vastly different the makeups are here. And no, it's not that he wasn't in the first movie, he was also in the first movie, but look at the improvement. It's like when you have special effects makeup dudes starting out in their first film, they're not terrible, but they start out good, and they get better and better. Kind of like Tom Savini in Dawn of the Dead. Due to not being able to retain the rights from the previous movie, reshoots were done to change it and make it more different. The cabin used was a different one, with the same design, but a lot better in some ways compared to the more iconic cabin. Some reshoots were shot around Michigan in a warehouse. Bruce Campbell broke his jaw during his chase scene against the evil. Reverse motion capture was used in the scene where Ash was thrown around by the evil in the woods, and it was done beautifully well. Kurt Russell is technically a simp for Bruce Campbell, as Bruce Campbell once states, they met at a premiere and Kurt asked for Bruce to say the iconic line, "Toolshed." During the mirror scene where Ash is losing it, it's evil Ash, and the makeup is done really well for the human look. And instead of Bruce Campbell just playing both his human self and the evil self in the mirror, a college student was asked to be in the movie, or was sort of pitched to be in the movie. They found some random actor, and he's like the stand-in. He's the stand-in from what I remember, from what I recall. Sam Raimi voices the evil hand for the whole film, and I thought that was pretty interesting since the evil hand makes a lot of weird sound effects, and what makes it even cooler is that the hand is made entirely out of gelatin. I don't know how they did it, but it is. Before I end this video here, I just want to say thank you guys for all the support recently on this channel. My Evil Dead thoughts on the upcoming video game managed to hit over 130 views already in like the first couple of days, and I just want to say thank you guys. And the fact that the Joji iceberg is still continuing to rise and it's getting closer to 700 is just making me gush! And also, I do apologize if this video didn't manage to capture your expectations. I wanted to try something different, and I'm hoping that the next one does a lot better. And I did have a lot of fun making this video. Both the script was a little bit rushed, I did try to make it better, I did tweak it out as much as I could, and the fact that I ended up recording some skits, since a lot of people wanted to see more of me behind the camera, actually recording instead of just me recording my audio like I am right now. But thank you guys again. I hope you guys like this video, and if you're new to the channel, please think about subscribing, as it does help me out in the long run. It has been that guy Frankie, yours truly, and remember, stay groovy. You ain't taking but two things right now, and that's Jack and shit. Jack left town.
My bad.
Bitch. Oh yeah.
Oh, hold on, I'm doing okay, alright.
Whew. I'm so glad that's fucking over with. Wait. What the fuck is going on? No. This can't be happening. This can't be happening to me. I read my stupid fucking script. This cannot be. Fuck.